Welcome back to Movies TV Mad and welcome to Thursday's edition of the Movies TV Mad Daily. You can follow me on Twitter at Movies TV Mad. Breaking news, Leslie Grace from In the Heights has been cast as our Batgirl. I believe this is the most perfect casting. I was right about two things. I was wrong about one thing, that the four women in the list weren't the actual ones that would get the role. It looks like I was wrong there, but I was right about two things: that they would cast a Latino actor, and that this casting and the decision towards this casting had been made some time ago. So Aaron Crouch and Boris Kitt from The Hollywood Reporter are all over this, so let's check out the details. Batgirl casts In the Heights star Leslie Grace as superhero. The HBO Max project has found its lead. Leslie Grace is reaching new heights. The actor, known for her breakout role in The Heights, is joining the DC Universe as Barbara Gordon, aka Batgirl. The Hollywood Reporter has confirmed Bad Boys for Life filmmakers Adil El and Arbi Bilal Fallah are directing Batgirl, from a script by Christina Hodson, the DC mainstay behind Birds of Prey and the upcoming The Flash. Kristen Burr is producing. In addition to acting, Grace has made a name for herself in the world of music. Receiving 3 Latin Grammy Awards nominations, the DC Universe has cast 3 Latina actresses in key film roles this year, with Grace, who is Dominican American, joining Sasha Calle, Supergirl, in the Flash, and Rachel Zegler, a mystery role in Shazam's Fury of the Gods. Wait a minute. Rachel Zegler is Latino. If you say so, let's just say she's partially Latino, right? We won't go any further in that. Anyway, yes, that's right. So Rachel has been cast in the mystery role in Shazam Fury of the Gods. Barbara Gordon, the daughter of Gotham Police Commissioner Jim Gordon, is the most famous version of Batgirl, who has had multiple characters: Don, Kate, and Cal. Batgirl originated in 1961 as Betty Kane, with the character revamped in 1967 for the Batman TV series for its 3rd season, when network executives wanted to attract a female audience to the series. Yvonne Craig played the character on the 60s TV show, with Alicia Silverstone playing her in Joel Schumacher's 1997 movie Batman and Robin. The less we say about Alicia's casting and performance, the better. The Batgirl film has been in development for several years, with Joss Whedon signing a deal to write and direct in 2017, then dropping out a year later. Well, he didn't drop out voluntarily now, did he? Batgirl does not have a release date, but Warners have previously indicated it will likely bow on HBO Max in 2023. Grace is repped by CEA, we don't care about that. So, Leslie Grace is Batgirl. This is very, very exciting. It's great to get some Latino representation and inclusion, by the way, because they don't get very much. The most represented minority group in the entertainment industry in Hollywood, as we know, are black people, especially since the incident of the policeman killing that gentleman as well, whose name escapes me right now. The black casting has been up here, the Latino casting down there, and the Native American casting, 0. There's quite a bit of Asian casting as well, which is great. But, you know, Native Americans, it's in the name, it's their country, and you don't represent and include them. Why are they not important? I don't understand. You'll have to tell me that, Hollywood and all the different studios and networks. Anyway, so I've forgotten her name already. Leslie Grace. So Leslie Grace is a perfect piece of casting. She's very talented. Now, In the Heights was very highly criticised. It was, I think, on HBO Max, and I think, was it released in theatres as well? But it was a WB project, so they're keeping to the people that they know and they trust, and there's nothing wrong with this. I think she's going to be great casting. Let me tell you something about Leslie. Everything she does, when she plays a character, you believe in that character, you're on that character's side. This is the perfect piece of casting. This is brilliant. This is perfect casting, and as I say, I'm very happy with the Latino representation. So I don't expect them to start shooting for maybe a couple of months at least. So why has the announcement been made now? As I said, I always believed it would be a Latino actor and that this casting was done yonks ago. But they've announced it now. This is why they released their top 4 actors that were in the final position to audition for the role. But they made the decision ages ago. So, I believe Leslie Grace will appear in the Flash movie as Batgirl, aka Barbara Gordon. I believe she has a big future with Michael Keaton's Batman. Now, I expect Michael Keaton's Batman to be involved in this Batgirl movie. Now, you would imagine that this Batgirl movie will not appear on HBO Max until after the Flash movie. So this probably will be a 2023. We will find a 2023 project and part of the 2023 slate. We will know more about this. I expect Leslie to appear at DC Fandom alongside Michael Keaton. More announcements will be made about Michael's involvement with Batgirl. But I've always believed that they were going to do this Batgirl Beyond thing. It's Batman Beyond, but I think they're doing Batgirl Beyond. So I wouldn't be surprised if this Batgirl, you know, has some scenes maybe with, what's her name? Sasha Calais' Supergirl. And so a lot of people would love to see that, and I think we will see that. And so, yeah, very exciting casting. I'm a big fan of the Batgirl character. You know, Barbara Gordon is someone who becomes disabled, but that doesn't stop her from being the awesome person that she is. So, yeah, just awesome. And this is proof of what they're doing with the multiverse, because Titans is introducing Barbara Gordon. She's no longer Batgirl, but they're introducing that character. So you can have her in Titans, and then you can have her played in a different universe, played by a different actor. So obviously, what's her name? Leslie Grace will be in part of DCEU Earth 1. Now, we still don't know what this means for Michael Keaton's Batman, because he's going to be in the universe that Barry creates after he goes back in time to warn his parents about the oncoming calamity of her being murdered, the mother being murdered and the father being set up, Henry Allen being set up for the murder. Either this creates a new universe, or he just ends up in Keaton's universe somehow. So very interesting how they're going to do that. I would imagine it's a new universe, but what's Keaton's Batman doing there? That's very interesting as well. But yeah, this is, for me, I have absolutely no issue with this casting of Leslie Grace. I think it's a perfect piece of casting, and I think you are going to absolutely love her as Barbara Gordon, aka Batgirl. James Gunn says superhero genre needs to bring in other elements to avoid becoming boring. Now, this is something I've been talking about for a very long time. I think James needs to be a consultant over at the DCEU, and I think he will be. You know what? This is a massive mistake by Disney. They should never have sacked him in the first place, because he really is going to make them pay when he comes back to DC after Guardians Volume 3, if he can play nice with them while he's making that film, because that film may not even be completed the way he feels about them. Now, that's just my theory, but yes, in all reality, he will complete Guardians Volume 3. Don't lose your shit, MCU and Guardians fans. It's just that it's an unhappy playground for him now. There's no question about that. And if you're going to listen to anyone, listen to the man who wrote and directed 2 of the biggest, most sensational blockbuster box office hits in the superhero genre. The director pointed to the 1978 Superman and the first Iron Man as examples of movies that moved the genre forward, while also teasing what he liked about filming The Suicide Squad, which he called a spectacle war film. This is very interesting, because you could go beyond Superman the movie and Iron Man. You could even say that Raimi's Spider-Man and Singer's X-Men are more groundbreaking than the first Iron Man. I don't think the first Iron Man does anything groundbreaking or particularly different, but it tells a good story, and Robert Downey Jr. and Gwyneth Paltrow are leading it, and it works. I mean, even, what's his name? I forgot his name now, but the guy who did the first Hulk movie, not the Incredible Hulk movie, but the one, I forgot his name now, great director. He did something groundbreaking and interesting, but mainstream audiences rejected it. It doesn't mean it wasn't a great, you know, blue touch paper lighting moment. On the heels of his upcoming DC film The Suicide Squad, James Gunn is sharing how unimpressed he is with the current state of the superhero genre, calling the comic book adaptations really dumb and mostly boring for me right now. Well. That is amazing. But what's he talking about? Because let's talk about it. Is Man of Steel dumb? Is BVS dumb? Is Suicide Squad dumb? Is Wonder Woman dumb? No. Is Aquaman dumb? I don't think it is. Is Shazam dumb? I like it. Wonder Woman 84 is dumb and boring. Birds of Prey is dumb and boring. Quite a few of the MCU movies are dumb and boring. He's really firing something here at the MCU as far as I'm concerned. I mean, it's a big statement to make, seeing that the superhero genre and the fans are your bread and butter. So, where are we? Really dumb, mostly boring for me right now. In a recent interview with the Irish Times, the Guardians of the Galaxy director shared that he thinks the genre needs to change things up and bring in other elements to avoid becoming stale. He points to the rise and fall of other movie genres like war films and westerns as proof that the genre's future is going to get really boring if things don't change. Now this is very interesting because this is kind of a comparison that Spielberg made, that in the end they would end up like the westerns. Listen to me. Everything that becomes fashionable for a certain time. There will always be superhero films being made, but maybe not on this volume and not on this level. But they'll always be made. But yeah, the pudding is being over-egged because they are the fashion statement of right now. That's what's making money for the studios, but at least make them interesting. And I think Joker movie is a great example of taking something and doing something a little bit different with it. And it really did work, didn't it? We know about the way cowboy films went and the way war films went, he said. I don't know. I think you don't have to be a genius to put two and two together and see that there's a cycle to those sorts of films, and that the only hope for the future of the comic book and superhero films is to change them up. They're really dumb and they're mostly boring for me right now. This is very interesting because what is he alluding to? I mean, I'd say, James, what are you talking about? Tell me what films you think are dumb and boring. He may say, well, I don't want to start disrespecting filmmakers, but you already are, my friend, because you know what you don't like. I would like you to actually tell me what films you're talking about, because this is really blatant. And mostly you've got to be talking about the MCU. I'm sorry, you have to. Gunn explained that he hadn't always felt this way about these adaptations, which he loved at the beginning, before noting that the advancement of visual effects was one of the main reasons he fell in love with the genre. The 1978 Superman is a film he still loves. Wow, you're an even greater friend of mine now, James. And let me say that again. My throat's going. Oh, sorry. Oh, bloody hell. Right, let's start again. The 1978 Superman is a film he still loves, and that had him really excited about the genre, though the writer-director acknowledged it featured a guy on wires and blue screen with this sort of crappy visual effects. What? He also pointed to Marvel's Iron Man as yet another example of the way superhero films have excitingly advanced movies. Let me just say something, James, about the so-called blue screen and wires and stuff. It looks a lot better than most of the effects used in the MCU today. So there, when he's flying after those missiles, it's sensational. So although I respect your love for Superman the movie, because I love it as well, come off it, mate. It looks sensational, and it still does. Come off of it. Anyway, when Iron Man came out, I was in you're able to make a guy fly around who looks like a guy flying around, and that was a beautiful thing to be able to do. Gunn continued. The director then spoke about two of his personal creative inspirations, elaborating on how they've influenced his expectations for the genre. Gunn subtly calls out the role of things like costuming and how physically fit many on-screen heroes are, suggesting that body diversity and a ragtag or distinctive style are what he enjoys most out of the genre. I was always influenced by Dave Gibbons' art and Alan Moore's Watchmen, where the costumes didn't fit the superheroes perfectly. They had a little bit of paunch, Gunn said. They weren't all perfect bodies, they weren't all beautiful. When they fought, they were kind of getting in the stupid Bartleby thing of getting into bar fights. Despite his somewhat generalised statement about the genre, Gunn did ultimately acknowledge that it isn't a monolith. There are people trying to do some different things with superheroes, he said, so it's not 100% a rule that everybody isn't, but a lot of superhero films are boring. And he's right, they are boring. Speaking about the stylistic elements of his own upcoming superhero film, The Suicide Squad, Gunn shared that for filming the big and broad adventure he dubbed the spectacle war film, the studio built the biggest set that was ever built before and used more practical special effects than we ever used in any movie. It just makes it more fun to shoot when I'm actually blowing things up as opposed to having silly looking CGI explosions. Listen, I'm a fan of practical effects. I grew up watching practical effects. I think they're better, but also actors have to pretend with CGI, which is the whole point of acting, but I'm a bigger fan of practical effects over CGI. Only use CGI when you have to, and I don't care how much it costs the studio, by the way. Not mine and your problem. And that's the interview. So, he's making a blatant statement there, a blanket statement. He's saying that there are a couple that are trying, but most of them these days are boring. So, he's talking about all of them, right? And that's okay. He's putting a blanket over it, but he's not saying which ones. But surely, he's talking mostly about the MCU, which have had a lot of boring comic book movies. Now, we've seen a lot of MCU movies just go through the tried and tested formula because they make money. Gags, flying fights, boom. It's done. It's actually the DCEU that's actually done something interesting and different. And the way he's sounding, he wants very little to do with the future of the MCU, and that's the way I'm reading this situation. Zack Snyder's Stone Quarry Productions signs first look film deal with Netflix exclusive. The banner which Snyder runs with partner and wife Deborah and executive Wesley Kohler wants to make big projects and big movies by Boris Kitt of THR. The Stone Quarry Productions, a banner run by filmmaker Zack Snyder and producing partner Deborah Snyder and executive Wesley Kohler, has signed a first look film deal with Netflix. The 2-year deal anchors the filmmaking team to the streamer for which it made Army of the Dead, a zombie heist movie that is among the most watched movies released by the digital company, and it comes just weeks after Snyder set up his next movie, sci-fi adventure tale Rebel Moon. The latter falls under the new deal. So, this is very interesting. Listen, Netflix are happy with him, which is all that matters. This is why he's got the deal. And we will talk about this fully after the article. My goal and hope are to bring as much quality content as I can and do it on a giant scale, Zack Snyder tells The Hollywood Reporter, bringing with energy, big projects and big movies. The company previously had a deal with Warner Brothers, the studio for whom Snyder guided either as director or producer most of the DC superhero offerings in the modern age of comic book movies, except the Christopher Nolan Batman movies. That deal ended in 2019 and the duo spent time considering with whom they wanted to tie a knot. It would be very interesting, I think, if Christopher Nolan isn't willing to work with Zaslav in Discovery. It would look like that Christopher Nolan and his wife Emma Thomas may join Netflix. We've heard he's talked to them before, but obviously because they don't release a lot of movies in theatrical terms, this is a deal breaker for Nolan. But I do believe that Netflix and Amazon are developing their own cinema content. What they're trying to do is build their own movie theatres so they can put their films there first, then on the platform. I think that's the plan. So I think Nolan may join Netflix as well. For us, it was so important to find a partnership that was based on mutual respect. Deborah Snyder says, the creative process works best when everybody trusts each other and you can take a chance and be creative. Yeah, I wonder why you're saying that. For us, we don't usually play it safe. The content we make is a little bit edgier, and I think it's important to have a good partnership and hear each other. But that's the thing, Deborah. You know, studios do like to play it safe. They do like their investments to be safe, and you can't blame them for that. And I don't blame you for wanting to make the kind of films that you want to make. But you've got to be fair. She adds, and Netflix has given us a lot of freedom, but they've also embraced the idea of trying new things and not necessarily waiting for a success before moving ahead. But that, my dear, It's the studio system. Don't you understand the studio system? That's why you and your husband Zach shouldn't be in the studio system, and at Netflix you are entirely in the right place. The making of Army of the Dead illustrated that sentiment. Even before the movie was released in May, Netflix and Snyder were in production on a German-made prequel titled Army of Thieves, and an anime spin-off. The prequel is on track for a full release, while the anime is set to debut in spring 2022. A consumer isn't going to be waiting 2 years for more, and that is exciting. Notes Deborah Snyder, I give them a lot of credit for developing that partnership and trust. A consumer will wait for anything, Deb, that is really, really good. I'm a consumer. I know what I'm talking about. The deal keeps the Snyders working with Netflix film head Scott Stuber, who oversaw Snyder's debut feature, Dawn of the Dead. In his role at the time as vice chairman of Universal, he was also instrumental in bringing Army to the streamer. I've known Zach and Deb for years and was fortunate to be part of Dawn of the Dead, his first film, added Stuber in a statement. I have since had the privilege of watching his career grow and see the evolving impact of his work. To see him return to his roots with Army of the Dead, which is now one of our most popular films, and build a world out of these characters with the upcoming Army of Thieves and anime series is amazing to see. We've only scratched the surface of what's still to come and create with Zach and Deb and Wes and everyone at Stone Quarry. Yes, Snyder will be spending more time in the Army-verse. On the docket is a sequel he's developing with the first movie's co-writer Shay Hatton, something he would tackle after Rebel Moon. So if you're an Army of the Dead fan, you've got a bit to wait, but Rebel Moon is the project I think we're really excited about. And Moon, which hopes to go into production in early 2022, is also envisioned as something that can launch sequels and series between those two original properties. Stone Quarry has plenty of material with which to work. Moon is being produced with Eric Newman's Grand Electric Company, of course. But that's not all. Among the projects being developed in the action vehicle for Damon Caro, Snyder's second unit director and stunt coordinator on numerous of the movies, who would make his feature filming debut. While the company has not abandoned working with established intellectual property, especially in the comics field, from which Snyder has had some of his biggest success, the duo are feeling regenerated by original ideas. Here's some more spin. Zach is really good at world building, says Deborah Snyder. We've done that with the comics for so long that to do something original is the ultimate challenge, and we're up for that. The deal with Netflix is another feather in the Snyder cap for 2021. The year began with the March release of Zack Snyder's Justice League, the director's restored version of the much maligned 2017 Justice League movie that was an amalgam of his and Joss Whedon's work. The splashy opening generated plenty of buzz, while the recent international release on DVD and Blu-ray saw the movie fly to the top of the sales charts in several countries, France, Brazil among them. Of course, it was successful in America, but he's not allowed to say that because Warner Brothers have sworn everyone to silence because they don't want to admit the film was successful. There's reasons for that, and there's a bitter past between Snyder and them. And Tuesday, when Netflix disclosed quarterly earnings, the company revealed that 75 million member accounts worldwide tuned in for Snyder's Army in its first 4 weeks of release. Netflix viewing metric counts 2 minutes of viewing time for a series or a movie. It's ridiculous. Listen, the film's obviously done well enough to bring Snyder in full time, and I'm happy for Zack, and I think he's going to be a great relationship, but to count 2 minutes as a view is fucking pathetic. Long enough to show the choice was intentional, as the streamer puts it. That's ridiculous. As a view, that proved to be more than the streamer's initial projection of 72 million. Listen, I don't care about the figures because counting 2 minutes of viewing time as a view is pathetic, as I've already said. So, this is very, very big for Zack Snyder. But do you think anyone else was queuing up to give Snyder a first look deal? I can tell you that Hulu was. I can tell you that Amazon Video was. In fact, every streamer was. I even heard rumours that the BBC iPlayer wanted to work with him as well. So streaming services were desperate to work with Snyder. But no network or studio ever wanted to work with him because they work in a different environment. An environment that Snyder's not willing to work in. Snyder's like that kid in kindergarten that wants to get everything his own way and doesn't give a shit about the other kids. This is not me putting Zack down, this is me being honest. When we talk about the studio system and Zack, it's not that the studio system is wrong, it's how they've always worked. And when you're a director and you're spending their money and you're working on their IPs, you've got to respect them. Deb talks about mutual respect. I don't think you had the mutual respect for the studio because it works a different way than you want to. But I'm very, very happy for them. It's a great success story. He can do whatever he wants over on Netflix. But let's make no mistake, no one from high-profile movie studios was queuing up to give Zack Snyder a first-look deal. Also, this doesn't mean he's tied up with Netflix exclusively. Still hashtag restore the Snyderverse. Because there's two realities here. One is that Zaslav and Discovery come in and say, we'd like you to do something on HBO Max. Obviously, he's going to be incredibly busy, but Zack would bite WB's hands off to be able to do this. Of course, his next project probably will be Rebel Moon. There's nothing to be done about that. But there's another scenario here. Now, Robert Downey Jr., WB and Netflix have worked together with Sweet Tooth, which is a DC IP. That they didn't sell that. They didn't sell that to Netflix. It's a partnership. So a similar thing could be done with the Snyderverse and Justice League 2 and 3 and who knows what else. WB, Zaslav could come in and say, listen, we really don't want to work with Snyder. He's a pain up the fucking arse. But what we would like to do is like to work with you, Netflix, so he can make his Justice League 2, Justice League 3, and we would like you to stream it on your platform, but we want a big portion of the profits, obviously, and we would want a little bit of a cinematic release. I think under those terms, it could really, really work, and I'd love to hear what you think about my suggestion about that. But congratulations to the Snyders. Netflix is the best place for you. You've got a great future, and DC Films also have a great future now. The Flash, A Villain's Return sets up Season 8 to the end of the series. The Flash Season 7 finale saw the return of a surprising villain. He helped Barry defeat Godspeed, but his arrival suggests Season 8 will be the last by May. Should we just call her May? Let's just call her May. Should we try and say her surname? All right, let's try. Let's be respectful. Abdul-Baki. I think that's how it works. Sorry if I murdered your name. The Flash Season 7 saw the return of Barry Allen's greatest nemesis, and it sets up Season 8 to be the final outing for the long-running series. I do agree about that. For several episodes, the Godspeed clones terrorized Central City as they battled each other and siphoned the speed of the Flash and his and Iris's future kids, Bart and Nora. To defeat Godspeed, Barry called upon the only person who could help without permanently altering the future. In the Flash Season 7 finale called Heart of the Matter Part 2, Barry agreed to give Godspeed what he ultimately wanted, organic speed. Bestowed with the power of the Speed Force, the Flash and the villainous physicist battled each other. However, Barry and Iris had a backup plan. Have the Speed Force tap into the negative Speed Force to bring back Reverse Flash in a bid to defeat Godspeed for good without putting Bart aka Impulse, Nora aka XS and their future in danger. To no one's surprise, Reverse Flash turned on Barry immediately afterward, while the Scarlet Speedster was able to best Yerbard form. In that moment, the villain vowed to become the fastest speedster alive again, as the threat of his return loomed over the episode. The Season 7 finale wasn't the first time Reverse Flash reappeared after his death in the Flash Season 1 finale. The speedster villain has popped up at several points throughout the series run, be it in the past in an alternate reality or as a time remnant, but the way form was brought back this time around suggests Season 8 of The Flash will be the end of the series. Reverse Flash is the ultimate baddie from the show's long history of villains. He's also someone who shares the deepest personal connection with Barry, with Thorne's murder of Nora Allen being what kicked off the series to begin with. To that end, it makes a world of sense that he would be the villain the Flash fights in its final season. Bringing the events of the show full circle, Tom Cavanagh teased that the Flash and Thorne would settle things before the series officially came to an end. So yeah, Tom knows we're heading to the end game now. They said he was leaving the Flash, then he came back. That would obviously make him a regular. Would he be a regular or would he just turn up in doses? We'll have to wait and see. It's been confirmed that Grant Gustin's contract ends with The Flash Season 8, so if there were ever to be a time to stage a final battle between the two speedsters, enemies next season would be the opportune time to do so. Now, this is very interesting because season 8, I remember, is when Tom Welling's contract for Smallville was up for negotiation, and this became very problematic because in that contract, I was told anyway, he would never have to wear the Superman suit. He would get a producer's credit, and he would be able to produce one other CW show, and if you remember rightly, that show lasted for 1 season. So they wanted Smallville to keep going because Smallville was holding the CW up at the time. The problem was when Nolan and Goyer started developing Man of Steel, they made it absolutely clear that Smallville had to go because Smallville would be a problem for the success of the movie because they weren't dealing with the multiverse then, and that's why Smallville was cancelled. Of course, the actor's contract could be renewed, but with Thorne showing up, a looming pregnancy for Iris and the original cast dwindling, it's unlikely the Flash will carry on for much longer. Plus, if Reverse Flash wasn't coming back next season, there wouldn't have been a purpose to his appearance in the Flash Season 7 finale. It's possible Reverse Flash will spend time off screen ensuring he becomes the fastest man alive, as Barry deals with another villain first. When he's satisfied his powers, that's when he might return to have a final showdown with the Flash, which could happen nearer to the end of the 8th season. That makes sense. Reverse Flash's return has been hinted at for a while now, but his appearances have always been in brief, fleeting bursts. However, the Season 7 finale of The Flash fully committed to the promise of the Speedster being a more permanent and antagonistic fixture in the future, considering his history with Barry and The Flash being on its last leg as far as longevity. Bringing back Thorne and having Barry defeat him once and for all feels like a suitable end to the Scarlet Speedster story. Listen, Arrow finished with 8 seasons. It would kind of look like they'd want to do the same thing with The Flash, but don't forget, Stephen Amell wanted to apparently leave anyway, but during COVID he wanted to come back. Nuts, right? Make your mind up, Steve. Anyway, so it's probably true that Flash will finish at the end of season 8. But if you're a fan of Grant Gustin's The Flash, forget about the other characters because they're immaterial to me and most of you, because I know about all the complaints how there's too many supporting characters and Team Flash and We Are the Flash bollocks. But we're all fans of Grant's The Flash. I think we have been from day one. He's a sensational actor. His future is rubber stamped and guaranteed with the multiverse strategy. He will show up a lot of times with Ezra Miller's The Flash. He'll show up in the Flash movie. He has a huge future in DC live action, so don't worry about that. But yes, I do feel this show is coming to its end. Season 7 felt like a season maligned because of the COVID pandemic as well. They really need to deliver, so I do expect them to announce at probably their upfronts, the CW upfronts, that this will be the final season, season 8 of The Flash. Now, Eric Wallace, the showrunner, said he doesn't know. He believes the show could go on for years and years, but he simply doesn't know. He's just got to keep on making the show for as long as he's told to make the show for. But I do believe it will be the final season. But Grant Gustin has a huge, huge future still in DC live action as Barry Allen, aka The Flash. Why James Wan returned to direct Aquaman 2. James Wan doesn't usually direct sequels, but he revealed why he had to return for Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom to complete Arthur Curry's story by Graham Gutman. Now, is he coming back just for 2, or will he do a third? Very, very interesting. I would expect him to break his rule and absolutely do a trilogy. Director James Wan revealed why he returned to direct Aquaman and The Lost Kingdom. Wan originally rose to fame directing horror films, ones that usually kicked off new franchises. The director has his first taste of blockbuster filmmaking with 2015's Furious 7 before making his DCEU debut in 2018 with Aquaman. The Jason Momoa-led film is the most successful DCEU film at the box office to date, netting over $1.1 billion. Following Momoa's Arthur Curry after the events of 2017's Justice League. Aquaman making that kind of money after Justice League is an achievement in itself. The film sees him return to Atlantis to confront his half-brother Orm, played by Patrick Wilson. By the end of Aquaman, Arthur rises to the throne of Atlantis with Mera Amber Heard by his side, but the film also sets up the foe for the sequel as Yahya Abdul-Mateen II's Black Manta sets his sights on revenge against Arthur, Little is truly known about the sequel, save for what can be cleared from the title, Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom, hinting at Necros. Now that filming has kicked off in London though, details have slowly begun to trickle out as Momoa, Heard and the rest of the cast arrive in the UK to begin production on the film. With Wan also returning, the director explained to IGN why he came back for the sequel. He cited the fact that he doesn't usually return to direct sequels as evidence why The Lost Kingdom is particularly important to him, saying that he felt the need to continue Arthur and Mira's story after working on the first Aquaman. Wan also praises screenwriter David Leslie Johnson McGoldrick for being able to find a story that was able to expand on the original film, in addition to the underwater world building that allowed him to explore more of the strange kingdoms under the sea. Check out his thoughts below. There's a reason why I don't make 3 movies in the same series. It'd be lucky to get me to make a sequel, and then after that I just get bored. I want to do something different. I would say the thing that really got me excited to come back to do it is finding a story that I think is worthy, and if not better than the first movie. And also for me, really, when I come back to a sequel, whether it was for Insidious 2 or The Conjuring 2 and now Aquaman 2, is I helped shape and create these characters, and I eventually fall in love with, and I feel like I'm not done with them yet. So I feel like I owe them one more story from me. So this seems like Wan is saying that he won't do a third. This will be very interesting. Who could do a third? You know, there's lots of talented directors out there. Personally, I want Wan to do a third, and hopefully he can be persuaded to do a third. The man's a genius. I wanted to continue the next chapter of Arthur Curry's story, and Orm's story, and Mira's story, and Black Manta's story, and screenwriter David Leslie Johnson McGoldrick found a really cool story to bring all these characters back, and then growing them in a big way, and taking them to the next level of the next chapter of their lives. Previously, Wan has only returned to direct 2 sequels, Insidious Chapter 2 and The Conjuring 2, both of which expanded on the world that the original film set up. It certainly seems like Aquaman 2 will be doing the same, allowing Arthur Curry to not only grow up as a character, but to expand on his story in the DCEU as a whole. As of now, Arthur is one of the only founding members of the DCEU who has, only founding members of the DCEU who has a film in the works alongside The Flash and an untitled Wonder Woman 3. At the moment, there's nothing official about the rest of them, but that doesn't mean they won't get one. This is the multiverse after all. Just because Snyder's not involved, don't think Ben Affleck's Batman is done. He could do more after The Flash. Who knows? Unlikely, but who knows? And Henry Cavill's Superman, I expect him to cameo in many films as well. With the DCEU in flux, it's not in flux, sorry to disappoint you, Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom will allow Wan to do some serious world building, both in terms of Arthur Curry's underwater kingdom and the DCEU. Whether or not the film will connect to the wider franchise, it will, remains uncertain, it's certain, but since it is coming after The Flash, very important, right. It seems almost certain that there may be some wider implications for the DCEU somewhere within Aquaman's next chapter. This is very important because I think these characters will maybe have new costumes as well, but it's coming after the Flash movie. This is pivotal. So even if everyone, when Barry reboots the multiverse, isn't dramatically changed, you will see delicate little changes in their universe. So Aquaman 2 and Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom coming straight after the Flash movie is the first movie after the multiverse has been totally rebooted. Rebooted for a second time since Oliver Queen rebooted the multiverse in Crisis on Infinite Earths. But that story is connected to what they're doing on The Flash. Make no mistake about that. Great to read what James Wan had to say. He saved the DCEU. His Aquaman movie took the potential of Star Wars underwater. It works, it's beautiful. The first Aquaman movie is everything that the Star Wars sequel trilogy should have been. This man is a genius, he's got a great writer with him. The film looked beautiful, this film will look beautiful. I can't wait to see it. If you want to boycott this film for one reason or the other, it's up to you. But I wouldn't boycott this film or any DC film in this lifetime or the next. The Suicide Squad is very violent, according to Captain Boomerang actor Jay Courtney, star of James Gunn's The Suicide Squad, confirms the film's R rating is well earned, saying it's crazy and definitely very violent by TC Phillips of Screen Rant. Jay Courtney, star of DC's upcoming The Suicide Squad, has said that James Gunn's R-rated film is definitely very violent. Courtney, who is returning to the role of the Australian supervillain Captain Boomerang, is only amongst a small handful of original 2016 Suicide Squad cast returning for a second outing. In addition to Margot Robbie's Harley Quinn, Courtney is also joined by Viola Davis, Amanda Waller and Joel Kinnaman, Rick Flag. Rounding out the rest of Gunn's Task Force X is an electric collection of newcomers, including Idris Elba, Bloodsport, John Cena, Peacemaker, David Dasmalkian, Polka Dot Man, happy birthday Dave for yesterday by the way, and Daniela Melchior, Ratcatcher 2. When Warner Brothers swooped in to enlist Gunn for his choice of projects after being let go from working on Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, the director was clear with the studio that he wanted to be given carte blanche to do what he wanted with the film. When Gunn recently spoke with Screen Rant, he confirmed that this allowed for his version of the Suicide Squad to be a much rougher film than his previous MCU outings. While the final theatrical release of 2016 Suicide Squad only scored itself a PG-13 rating, Gunn has gone all out in upping the gore and graphic violence, which ultimately earned it an official R rating, which was very good news for James's vision and movie, of course. More recently, Courtney has added his thoughts on the upcoming release, speaking with Variety at the premiere of his new Amazon film, Joel, in which he co-stars with Kate Beckinsale. The actor also had a few things to say about his DCEU return. Check out what Courtney had to say below. It's crazy, dude. It's so bizarre. James Gunn is an evil genius in a way, and the movie is really something that is representative of what he is capable of. He really pushed the boundaries. He was basically given the keys and told to do whatever the fuck you want. And he did. It's definitely very violent, but it's also really silly, funny, and has immense core and heart to it. Courtney's praise of Gunn's wild and unique take on the property is just the latest in a long line of cast members who have applauded their director and his fearless vision for the film. Even last year, before filming had even wrapped, Courtney's co-star Kinnaman warned audiences that the film they were making was heavily R-rated and would not be holding anything back. This is good news for many DC fans who were disappointed in WB's previous misguided attempts to rework David Ayer's Suicide Squad for a broader PG-13 audience. But there's responsibility there, as you know, with Zack. The relationship with Zack and WB was falling apart, and you know, David Ayer was collateral damage, and Zack did nothing to help him. This is the problem. It's all very messy, and one day the truth of this situation, all of this situation, will come out. With the early Suicide Squad reviews providing the film with glowing recommendations, viewers are excited to be able to get in and see the bold and bloody spectacle for themselves. Thankfully, Gunn himself recently revealed the film would be opening one day earlier than anticipated, landing in US theatres on his birthday, August the 5th. No doubt the Suicide Squad's highly anticipated release will be a birthday treat to remember. I can't wait to see the finished article of this film. It's going to be so good. I've got so much time for Jay Courtney as Captain Boomerang. I didn't really have much time for him as an actor before I saw him in 2016 Suicide Squad, but I thought that one of the best performances of his career, because it's totally not Jay at all, or he's played clean-cut characters in the past. This was fantastic, and I'm so happy that he was one of the original characters from the original movie James decided to bring back. And I hope he doesn't die, because I really like him. And if he doesn't die, maybe we'll see him in the Flash movie, or maybe Flash will cameo in this movie. Wouldn't that be amazing? Everything will be revealed as things happen, but I can't wait. So excited for the future of the DCEU. Finally today, I find it really funny. We're going to talk about the Injustice animated film and the casting and the voice casting for it. Very excited, by the way. But it's so funny the other day that Marvel Studios announced they were building an animated department because they want to do more stuff like What If. And it's kind of hilarious to me. Disney, that literally created animation probably 100 years ago or whatever, right? You know, that didn't do this before. I'm always told as a DC fan by Marvel fans, DC stinks, DC's rubbish. Where, you know, we're so forward, we're so beyond DC. But DC have been making awesome, epic animated movies and TV shows for years. You're the ones in that department that are very far behind us. Anyway, very exciting. This is a great idea to do an Injustice animated film, and I'm so down for it. DC's Injustice animated film reveals full cast for Justice League and villains. The full voice cast for DC's upcoming animated movie Injustice includes Anson Mount. I mean, wow. Wow. Let me say that again. Anson Mount. But this is the big one, if you're a Smallville fan. Justin Hartley. Yes, Justin Hartley is playing Superman in the Injustice animated movie. He was the first live-action Green Arrow, aka Oliver Queen, on Smallville, and I'm so happy about this casting. He's going to be great. Gillian Jacobs and Laura Bailey by Nico Marone of Screen Rant. The full cast of DC and Warner Brothers' upcoming animated film Injustice has been revealed. Injustice will release as a DC animated movie, the same banner that the likes of Batman, The Long Halloween, Justice League Dark and The Dark Knight Returns fall under, and will be based on the video game Injustice: Gods Among Us from the 2013 developed by NetherRealm Studios, a studio behind the Mortal Kombat series. The game sees players battling it out as a plethora of DC comic characters including Superman, Wonder Woman, Harley Quinn and Lex Luthor in a number of iconic locations from the comics like Gotham City and Metropolis. Injustice is set in an alternative universe where the Joker tricks Superman into killing Lois Lane and their unborn son. Their deaths cause the Man of Steel to kill Joker before setting about establishing an authoritarian regime and becoming a tyrant. In retaliation, Batman establishes an insurgency to oppose his former friend. The series' popularity spawned a prequel comic that explained on the conflict between the heroes and ran for 3 years to critical acclaim. While it's unclear how closely the animated movie will be on the video game or the comic, by the way, I know that Bruce Timm does keep it pretty close to the comics, not totally, but he does pretty much copy and paste these things in animation, which is great. The cast list does offer a great deal of insight on what to expect. THR is reporting a stacked ensemble cast of the animated feature that will include This Is Us, Justin Hartley voicing Superman, Smallville's Justin Hartley voicing Superman, wow! Star Trek Discovery's Anson Mount voicing Batman, and veteran voice actress and critical role star Laura Bailey in a dual role of Lois Lane and Rama Kushner. To name but a few, the full cast list can be seen below. Justin Hartley as Superman, Anson Mount as Batman. Let me say that again. Justin Hartley as Superman, Anson Mount as Batman, Laura Bailey as Lois Lane and Rama Kushner, Zach Callison as Damian Wayne and Jimmy Olsen. Wow! Brian T. Delaney as Green Lantern, Brandon Michael Hall as Cyborg, Edwin Hodge as Mr. Terrific, Killer Croc, Oliver Hudson as Plastic Man, Gillian Jacobs as Harley Quinn, wow, Yuri Lowenthal as Mirror Master Flash and Shazam, Derek Phillips as Nightwing and Aquaman, Kevin Pollak as Joker and Jonathan Kent, Anika Noni Rose as Catwoman, Reed Scott as Green Arrow, and Victor Zsasz Farhad Tahar as Ra's al Ghul, Fred Tasker as Captain Atom, Janet Varney as Wonder Woman, and Andrew Morgado as Mirror Master Soldier. Do you know what? Seeing Green Arrow's in this, why couldn't Justin Hartley play him? But I'm still stoked that he's playing Superman. Injustice will be held by a number of experienced DC animated movie stalwarts, with Warner Brothers Animation president serving as executive producer and Justice League Dark, Matt Peters directing the script by Ernie Outback, who has penned a number of the animated features including 2019's Batman Hash. Rick Morales and Jim Krieg will round out the team as producers on the project. Wow, legendary iconic names. The film will release in fall of this year. Wow, although the exact date is yet to be revealed. The Injustice comic series has proved to be one of the most popular and memorable additions to DC Comics of the past decade. So much, so great, they arguably served as an inspiration behind the nightmare future glimpsed within both cuts of Justice League. As such, fans will undoubtedly be eager to see what the film adaptation has in store. While DC's animated movies sometimes struggle to adapt their more iconic comics in a satisfying way, the less said about the Killing Joke inappropriate additions, the better. Well, that's just one movie. Most of them are pretty awesome. Some of them can be underwhelming. That's because they're overhyped. I love them. there is a great deal of scope to work with for Injustice, both from the games and the comics. In fact, considering the amount of lore on offer to work with, it would not be unlikely to see an Injustice series arise if the film proves successful. Not dissimilar to the already existing DC animated movie universe, the DCAMU, which a number of its films exist. In a sneak peek of the project is set to be included in the bonus features of the Long Halloween Part 2 when it releases later this month. So fans should find out more about Injustice ahead of its release on home entertainment this coming fall, and I can't wait till I get the Long Halloween Part 2. I haven't properly seen the first one yet. I think I just watched them back to back. But wow, DC goes from strength to strength, both in animation and live action. What they are doing here is fantastic. I think it's going to be successful, and doing an Injustice animated movie is a test, because if this works, they'll do live action, and I'm sure the Snyder fans will say, well, we've already seen it done, but this would be something different and awesome and epic. Let's see what happens, but I'm very, very excited about DC animation and the future of DC live action. This has been Thursday's edition of the Movies TV Mad Daily. Follow me on Twitter at Movies TV Mad. I will see you in the next video, and these have been your DC and entertainment industry updates. See you again soon.